The view screen flickered with the cold light of distant stars as Captain Jasper Kane studied the tactical display. 3 years had passed since the Zeltharian Empire first arrived at Earth's doorstep with their ultimatum, kneel or burn. Humanity had chosen neither, and the galaxy still smoldered from their defiance. Jasper's fingers traced the scars along his jawline, a reminder of the Battle of New Geneva, where half the human fleet had been reduced to cosmic dust. The Zeltharians fought, with precision and overwhelming force, but they had underestimated the fire that burned in human hearts when their freedom was threatened. "Captain, we're approaching the rendezvous point," Lieutenant Vera Cross announced from her station. Her voice carried the crisp authority of a seasoned officer, but Jasper caught the subtle tension that only he seemed to notice. They had served together for 2 years, and in that time, something had grown between them that neither dared to name. Vera turned to face him, her dark eyes reflecting the starlight. She had pulled her auburn hair back in regulation style, but a few rebellious strands framed her face. Jasper felt his pulse quicken as their gazes met. In the midst of war, she had become his anchor, the reason he fought so fiercely to protect what remained of human civilization. Signal from Admiral Thorne's flagship, Communications Officer Davies reported. "They're requesting immediate conference." Admiral Nix Thorne's weathered face appeared on the main screen moments later. The resistance leader had aged decades in the past 3 years, but her eyes still burned with the fierce determination that had rallied humanity's scattered forces. Behind her, the bridge of the Prometheus buzzed with activity as officers prepared for what many believed would be their final gambit. "Jasper," Admiral Thorne began without preamble, "the intelligence we've gathered confirms it. The Zeltharians are massing their entire fleet at the Chronos Station. If they launch from there, they'll have enough firepower to glass every remaining human colony in a single campaign." Jasper leaned forward in his command chair. "What's our play, Admiral?" "We hit them first. A strike team infiltrates the station while our fleet creates a diversion. The target is their command center. If we can disable their coordination systems, their fleet becomes a collection of individual ships instead of a unified force." The plan was suicide, and everyone knew it. Chronos Station was the Empire's most heavily fortified position, bristling with weapons that could vaporize a capital, ship in seconds. But desperate times called for desperate measures, and humanity had been desperate for 3 long years. "I'll lead the infiltration team," Jasper said, knowing the words would tear at Vera's heart just as they did his own. "I'm going with you," Vera stated firmly, her tactical mind already working through the mission parameters. Admiral Thorne studied them both through the view screen. She had been a soldier long enough to recognize the unspoken bond between them, and her expression softened slightly. "This mission has a low probability of survival. I won't order anyone to volunteer." "With respect, Admiral," Vera interjected, "Captain Kane will need tactical support, and I know his command style better than anyone. We work well together." The words carried layers of meaning that made Jasper's chest tighten. They did work well together, in ways that extended far beyond military operations. In quiet moments between battles, they had found solace in each other's company. Shared looks across the bridge, hands that lingered when passing data tablets, conversations that stretched deep into the night watch. Their relationship existed in the spaces between words, in the tension of things unsaid. After the conference ended, Jasper found himself alone with Vera in the tactical planning room. Star charts and enemy positions covered every surface, but neither of them was looking at the data. "We might not make it back," Jasper said quietly, finally voicing what they both knew. Vera stepped closer, close enough that he could smell the subtle scent of her perfume, a luxury she somehow maintained even in wartime. "Then maybe it's time we stopped pretending." Her hand found his, fingers intertwining with a naturalness that spoke of how long they had wanted this moment. Jasper felt the weight of command, the responsibility for his crew, the burden of humanity's survival, all fade into background as he looked into her eyes. "Vera, She silenced him with a finger against his lips. "I know. I've known for months. The way you look at me during briefings, how you always position yourself between me and danger during boarding actions. You don't have to say it. but he did need to say it. With death potentially hours away, the words that had been locked in his heart demanded freedom. "I love you, Vera Cross. I love your brilliant mind, your fierce courage, the way you never back down from a challenge. I love how you see tactical solutions where others see only problems." Her smile was radiant enough to power the ship's engines. "I love you too, Jasper Kane. I love your stubborn refusal to surrender, how you carry the weight of everyone's hopes and never let it crush you. I love that you fight not just for humanity's survival, but for its soul." Their lips met in a kiss. That tasted of desperation and hope, of love finally acknowledged and time running short. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard, years of suppressed emotion crackling between them like electricity. "Whatever happens at Kronos Station," Vera whispered against his lips, "we face it together." The preparation for the mission began immediately. Jasper's strike team consisted of 12 volunteers, each a specialist in their field. Among them was Talia Reed, an engineer whose past remained shrouded in mystery, but whose skills with alien technology were unquestionable. Her presence made some of the crew nervous, but Jasper had learned to trust his instincts about people. As the Defiant approached the outer edges of the Kronos system, long-range sensors detected the massive Zeltharian fleet. Hundreds of ships, arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming like predatory insects in the starlight. At the center of it all sat Kronos Station, a technological marvel that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. "My God," breathed Vera as the tactical display updated with enemy positions. "There's enough firepower there to crack a planet." "Which is exactly what they plan to use it for," Jasper replied grimly. He activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. In 1 hour, we begin the most important mission in human history. The Zeltharians believe they've broken our spirit, that we'll eventually submit to their rule rather than face extinction. They're wrong." He paused, thinking of all the worlds that had already fallen, all the families torn apart by war. "We fight not just for our own lives, but for the idea that sentient beings have the right to determine their own destiny. The enemy may have superior numbers and technology, but they lack something we possess in abundance, the willingness to sacrifice everything for freedom." In the tactical room, Vera ran final checks on their infiltration route. The plan called for them to approach Kronos Station in a captured Zeltharian transport, using forged identification codes to gain entry. Once inside, they would make their way to the command center and plant charges that would cripple the station's ability to coordinate fleet movements. It was during these final preparations that they encountered their first surprise. A Zeltharian officer named Zeth Corvanus, captured during a recent skirmish, requested an audience with the strike team leader. The alien had been cooperative during interrogation, providing tactical information that had proven accurate. "Commander." Corvanus was tall and lean, with the typical Zeltharian features: pale blue skin, elongated limbs, and large eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. When Jasper entered the detention cell, the alien officer rose with fluid grace. "Captain Kane," Corvanus said in accented but clear English, "I have information that may be vital to your mission." "Speak," Jasper replied, hand resting on his sidearm. "The station's command center is protected by quantum encryption that changes every 30 seconds. However, there is a maintenance access port that bypasses the main security grid. I can provide you with the access codes." Vera, who had accompanied Jasper to the meeting, studied the alien with suspicious eyes. "Why would you help us? Your people are winning this war." Corvanus was quiet for a long moment, his large eyes reflecting an emotion that seemed almost human. "Because what my people call victory, I call genocide. The Zeltharian way has always been conquest through overwhelming force. But humanity, you fight with such passion, such creativity. You make us question whether might truly makes right." The alien commander's words carried the weight of genuine conviction, but Jasper remained cautious. Trust was a luxury he couldn't afford, especially with the fate of his species hanging in the balance. As the Defiant prepared to launch its desperate gambit, Jasper stood on the bridge beside Vera, watching the enemy fleet grow larger on the view screen. In a few hours, they would either strike a blow for human freedom or die in the attempt. Either way, they would face their destiny together, their love a flame that not even the vast darkness of space could extinguish. The stolen Zeltharian transport ship glided silently through space toward Kronos Station, its hull scarred and blackened to look like a vessel returning from battle. Inside the cramped cargo hold, Jasper Kane checked his team's equipment one final time. 12 humans prepared to infiltrate the heart of enemy territory, their faces painted with determination and fear in equal measure. Vera Cross monitored the communication channels, her fingers dancing across alien controls with practiced ease. The forged identification codes that Commander Corvanus had provided were holding up under scrutiny, but every second brought new risks of discovery. Kronos Control to transport vessel Cathera, came the mechanical voice through the speakers. State your cargo manifest and purpose. Talia Reed, disguised as the ship's captain, responded in fluent Zeltharian. Her knowledge of their language and customs had surprised everyone, but she deflected questions about her past with the skill of someone accustomed to keeping secrets. Kronos Control, we carry wounded from the Sigma-7 engagement, requesting immediate docking at Medical Bay 12. Minutes passed like hours before the response came. Permission granted, Cathera. Proceed to docking Bay 7. Medical teams will be standing by. Jasper felt Vera's hand squeeze his shoulder. A brief touch that communicated volumes. They were committed now, hurtling toward either victory or certain death. The massive bulk of Kronos Station filled their view screen, its surface bristling with weapon emplacements and sensor arrays. Somewhere within that technological fortress lay the command center that coordinated the Empire's war machine. The docking. Clamps engaged with a metallic thud that seemed to echo through Jasper's bones. They were aboard the enemy's most secure installation, surrounded by thousands of Zeltharian soldiers and officers. The very air felt hostile as they prepared to disembark. Remember the mission parameters, Jasper whispered to his team. We have 45 minutes to reach the command center, plant the charges, and reach the extraction point. Stay sharp, stay together, and trust your training. Vera moved closer to him in the dim lighting of the cargo hold. Whatever happens, in there I want you to know that these past few hours have been the happiest of my life. Having you, being with you, it makes everything worth fighting for. Their lips met in a fierce kiss that tasted of goodbye and forever. When they separated, both knew that this might be their last moment of peace before the storm. The station's corridors were vast and cold, designed for beings larger than humans. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as the strike team moved through maintenance passages, following the route that Corvanus had provided. So far, his intelligence had proven accurate, but Jasper couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. Talia Reed worked her magic on security panels, her fingers moving with an intimacy that suggested she had dealt with Zeltharian technology before. Each door opened silently at her touch, each camera turned away at precisely the right moment. When Vera questioned her about these skills, Talia only smiled mysteriously. Some secrets are worth keeping, she said, at least until the right moment. They were 3 levels from the command center when disaster struck. A patrol of Zeltharian guards rounded a corner, their massive forms blocking the corridor. For a heartbeat, both sides stared at each other in shock. Then training took over. The firefight was brief, but brutal. Energy weapons crackled through, the air leaving scorch marks on the walls and filling the corridor with the acrid smell of burned metal. When the smoke cleared, 2 of Jasper's team were down, and alarms were beginning to wail throughout the station. "Move!" Jasper shouted, helping Vera drag one of the wounded soldiers toward cover. "We've lost the element of surprise. Double time to the objective." The next 15 minutes became a running battle through the bowels of Kronos Station. Zeltharian security forces converged on their position from every direction, but the humans fought with the desperate fury of cornered animals. Each corridor became a battlefield, each door a potential trap. Vera proved herself a tactical genius under fire, finding alternate routes when their path was blocked, identifying weak points in enemy positions that allowed them to break through. Her mind worked like a computer, calculating angles and probabilities while energy bolts sizzled past her head. "There!" she called out, pointing to a ventilation grate. "The schematics show this leads directly to the command level. It's tight, but we can make it." One by one, the surviving team members crawled through the narrow passage. The metal was cold against their skin, and the sounds of pursuit echoed behind them. By the time they emerged in a storage room adjacent to the command center, only 8 members of the original 12 remained. The command center itself was a marvel of alien engineering. Holographic displays showed the positions of every ship in the Zeltharian fleet, while banks of computers processed tactical data at speeds that boggled the human mind. At the center of it all sat General Varrock, the architect of humanity's suffering. The Zeltharian general was massive even by his species' standards, his pale blue skin marked with the ritual scars of high rank. When the humans burst through the sealed doors, he turned with the slow confidence of a predator who had finally cornered his prey. "Captain Kane," General Varrock spoke in perfect English, his voice like grinding stone. "How predictable. Humans always resort to desperate gestures when faced with inevitable defeat. The only thing inevitable here is your empire's fall." Jasper replied, raising his weapon. "Release our people and withdraw from human space, or watch your fleet burn." Varrock's laugh was like the sound of breaking glass. "Your people kneel or they die. There is no third option. You should have learned this lesson when we reduced Earth's moon to rubble." The mention of that atrocity sent rage coursing through Jasper's veins. Images flashed through his mind. The lunar colonies burning, millions of innocent lives snuffed out in an instant, the debris raining down on Earth's oceans. It had been the Empire's demonstration of power, their way of showing humanity the cost of defiance. But the rage that filled Jasper was nothing compared to the fury that blazed in Vera's eyes. Her brother had been stationed on Luna Base 7 when the Zeltharians attacked. She had never spoken of her loss, but Jasper could see it in the way her hands trembled as she aimed her weapon at the general. "You're wrong about humans," Vera said, her voice steady despite the emotion behind it. "We don't break, we bend, and then we snap back harder than before." The battle that followed was chaos incarnate. Zeltharian reinforcements poured into the command center while the humans fought for control of the central computer core. Energy weapons turned the air into a lethal light show, and the smell of ozone mixed with the metallic scent of spilled blood. Talia Reed revealed the true extent of her mysterious skills during the firefight, moving through the alien computer systems with impossible ease. Her fingers flew across holographic interfaces as she uploaded a virus that would cripple the station's coordination protocols. "I used to work for them," she shouted over the noise of battle, finally revealing her secret. "Zeltharian Technology Division. I helped design these systems before I realized what they were really for. This is my chance to make amends." But even as their mission succeeded, the cost mounted. More team members fell to enemy fire, their sacrifice buying precious seconds for Talia to complete her work. Jasper felt each loss like a knife to the heart, but he kept fighting, kept moving, kept believing in the cause that had brought them. So far, it was Vera who noticed the trap closing around them. Security doors began sealing throughout the command center, cutting off their escape routes one by one. General Varrock, wounded but still dangerous, was methodically herding them toward a dead end. "Jasper," Vera called out, "we're not getting out of here." The words hit him like a physical blow. After everything they had shared, everything they had discovered about each other, their love story was going to end in this cold alien fortress. But then he saw something in her eyes that gave him hope. "The charges," she said quietly. "If we detonate them here in the command center, the explosion will cascade through the station's power grid. Their entire fleet will be blind and helpless." "That's a suicide mission," Jasper protested. "The blast will kill everyone in this section." Vera smiled, and in that smile was all the love and determination that had made him fall for her. "Sometimes the greatest victory requires the greatest sacrifice. Our fleet will have their chance. Humanity will survive." Before he could stop her, Vera sprinted toward the central computer core where Talia had planted the charges. Energy bolts chased after her, scoring hits that made her stumble but didn't slow her down. With her last breath, she activated the detonation sequence. "I love you," she whispered, her voice carrying across the command center as the charges began their final countdown. But in that moment of ultimate sacrifice, salvation came from an unexpected source. Commander Zeth Corvanus appeared in the doorway, leading a group of Zeltharian officers who had turned against the Empire. The alien commander's eyes met Jasper's across the chaos. "The evacuation pods," Corvanus shouted. "This way, now!" The next few minutes were a blur of desperate motion. The rebel Zeltharians fought their own people to clear a path to the escape pods, while Jasper cradled Vera's wounded form in his arms. She was unconscious but alive, her breathing shallow but steady. "Why?" Jasper asked Corvanus as they reached the pod bay. "Why risk everything to save us?" The alien commander's expression was haunted. "Because I have seen what my empire does to worlds that resist. The children of Antares, the gardens of Kepler 442b. We call it pacification, but it is genocide. If there is to be peace, it cannot be built on such foundations." The escape pod launched just as the charges detonated. The explosion tore through Kronos Station like a chain reaction, disabling power grids and communication arrays throughout the massive structure. On the view screen, Jasper watched the Zeltharian fleet suddenly break formation as individual ships lost contact with their command center. Vera stirred in his arms, her eyes fluttering open to meet his gaze. "Did we?" "We did it," Jasper whispered, kissing her forehead gently. "The fleet is scattered. Their coordination is broken. The war isn't over, but for the first time in 3 years, we have hope." Through the pod's small viewport, they could see the human fleet emerging from hyperspace, no longer facing an coordinated enemy force, but individual ships, caught off guard and vulnerable. The tide of war was turning at last. Months later, as peace negotiations began on the neutral world of Haven's Gate, Jasper and Vera stood together on the observation deck of the rebuilt Defiant. The scars of war marked both their bodies and their souls, but their love had emerged stronger than ever. "What do you think happens now?" Vera asked, leaning against his shoulder as they watched ships from both fleets maintaining a cautious peace. "Now, we build something better," Jasper replied. "Humans and Zeltharians working together instead of destroying each other. It won't be easy, but the best things never are." Commander Corvanus had become the leader of the Zeltharian peace faction, working alongside Admiral Thorne to forge a new alliance. Talia Reed, her past finally revealed and forgiven, headed the joint technology exchange program that would benefit both species. But it was the simple moment of two people in love, watching the stars and dreaming of tomorrow, that truly represented humanity's greatest victory. They had refused to kneel, refused to die, and in doing so had proven that some things were worth any sacrifice. The Empire had demanded submission or destruction. Humanity had chosen a third path, transformation. And in the flames of that choice, a better galaxy was being born.